Cartoon Network used to be untouchable. From the moment it launched on October 1st, 1992, it completely changed what animation on TV could be. For over 3 decades, Cartoon Network didn't just entertain kids, it shaped childhoods. It went through era after era, trying bold new cartoon styles, taking risks, and producing some of the greatest animated shows ever made. Adventure Time, Regular Show, Steven Universe, Ben 10, The Amazing World of Gumball. These weren't just series, they were cultural moments. Entire generations grew up rushing home from school just to catch the next episode. For years, Cartoon Network felt like an endless pipeline of creativity. But today, something's different. The network that once defined animation is barely recognizable. Ratings have collapsed, shows are being cancelled before they get a chance to grow, and entire studios have been shut down. The company that once dominated the animation world is now struggling just to stay relevant. Fans aren't excited like they used to be. The magic is gone, and the question everyone keeps asking is simple. How did this happen? How did one of the strongest animation empires fall so far, so fast? And what went wrong behind the scenes that led to the downfall of Cartoon Network? This is the full story. Cartoon Network's inception would be in the year of 1992, after being launched by Turner Broadcasting System as the first channel to air cartoons on a 24/7 basis. It was considered an innovator, as it was the first channel to introduce American audiences to anime and pioneered animated series for adults. Now, way before this, in the late 80s, the founder of TBS, Ted Turner, would notice a gap in the entertainment industry. There were no channels that were fully dedicated to airing cartoons on a constant 24/7 basis. So, in the year of 1986, TBS would buy a Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer for an undisclosed amount. Although TBS would later sell Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer just 2 months later, it would manage to retain the rights to its cartoon library. This library contained notable cartoons like Popeye and the Looney Tunes shorts up to 1948, which were popular cartoons in their own right. In late 1991, TBS would buy the rights to the entire library of Hanna-Barbera for a whopping $320 million. This library would include multiple cartoons, but the most popular ones would include 60s cultural phenoms like the Flintstones, Scooby-Doo, and the Jetsons. Although its reach was only limited to just 2 million households, which were nothing compared to the 6 million household reach of Disney and stupidly massive 55 million household reach of Nickelodeon. This did not stop the studio from producing its own original shows, even on its own limited budget. In 1993, the channel would premiere The Moxie Pirate Show, later called The Moxie Show and The Moxie and Flea Show, which would introduce audiences to a 3D computer-generated dog and flea in segments on the channel in between airings of cartoons from its library. The next year, the channel would air its fully original program, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, which largely used old Space Ghost animation spliced with live-action interviews. Perhaps the most popular in the early batch of shows released was aired in February of 1995, with a segment called World Premiere Tune In. The program produced more than 40 shows the following 3 years. What's crazy is how most of the shorts released on the program would go on to become some of Cartoon Network's most notable and loved shows. These include the likes of Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Laboratory, and perhaps the most notable one, the Powerpuff Girls. The production of these new original shows, in combination with reruns of classic oldies, would lead Cartoon Network to become the 5th most popular channel in the United States with 22 million subscribers. In 1997, something big would happen at Cartoon Network Studios. TBS would merge with Warner Bros. Discovery, giving Cartoon Network access to Warner Bros. Cartoon library. Thanks to the merger, Cartoon Network would introduce American audiences to Western action cartoons and anime shows, such as Dragon Ball Z and Sailor Moon. And in 1998, the network would launch its website, which hosted clips and episodes of Cartoon Network shows and games based on its content. Although the network was experiencing a lot of success, there was still a problem. Companies were not willing to spend money on advertising to children who were asleep. Cartoon Network's solution was to set up a time where it would air shows aimed at childless adults. This would be the birth of Adult Swim. This would prove to be a genius move, as childless adults already made up about 1/3 of its audience. Adult Swim would launch in 2001, and it would become a den to often weird and kind of experimental cartoons, and would need its own video maybe later in the future. Adult Swim would also become its own separate network in 2005. It would give rise to some of the most popular adult shows, Rick and Morty, The Boondocks, and The Robot Chicken. Now, during the years of 1997 to 2007, Cartoon Network would go on a generational run during what was known as the Golden Era. During this period, Cartoon Network would produce some of what are considered to be the best cartoons of all time. Cartoons like Dexter's Laboratory, The Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, Samurai Jack, The Grim Adventures of Bill and Mandy, just being a few of the cartoons that were released during this time period. Fast forward to 2004, and Cartoon Network would release the first episode of what would become one of the most loved segments on the channel, Cartoon City. Cartoon City would be a show where the characters of their most popular shows will live together in a 3D megacity, interacting with each other in what is considered one of the channel's best eras. Cartoon City did something that no other kids channel had done before. It made everything feel connected and lively. It made you feel like you lived in your own world with the show's characters. 3 years after the end of the Cartoon City era, Cartoon Network would enter what was considered by fans to be its second golden era. During the years of 2010 to 2016, Cartoon Network would release some of its best cartoons: Adventure Time, Amazing World of Gumball, Clarence, Uncle Grandpa, and my personal favorite, Steven Universe. These were just a few of the cartoons that the network would release. Not to forget Regular Show. These shows weren't just cartoons, they were cultural phenomenons and audiences showed up for it. The network would reach peak audience viewership of 969,000 viewers per day in 2016. This shows just how locked in Cartoon Network was. Online forums like Reddit still have conversations to this day where people reminisce about the second golden era. Unfortunately for Cartoon Network, 2016 would be the beginning of the end. Now, to say that 2016 was the beginning of the end for Cartoon Network would be a bit of a lie, as the network was still releasing great shows like the reboots of classics like The Powerpuff Girls, Ben 10, and the continuation of other popular series like We Be Bears and Adventure Time. The actual alleged downfall of Cartoon Network would begin in the year of 2018. It would begin with the telecommunications giant AT&T buying Time Warner Studios, which automatically meant that they also bought Cartoon Network. In 2022, Warner Media and Discovery combined to create Warner Bros. Discovery Inc. This would continue with HBO Max, which is an HBO streaming service owned by Warner Bros. Discovery Inc., which would become the official streaming service of Cartoon Network. This is a bad thing because for most people, this would be too much of a hassle. With the ever-increasing prices of streaming platform prices and your favorite shows being split over 50 different streaming platforms, for most people, best decision would be to leave. This combined with most of the loved shows that captivated so many people having ended like Adventure Time, Regular Show, Steven Universe, coupled with the network cancelling most of its new releases and lackluster releases, just made audiences leave even quicker. This would reduce the channel's primetime viewership to just 76,000. This is in stark contrast to the 201,000 viewers that it was gaining just a year prior. In 2024, WBD would announce that it would be shutting down the Cartoon Network website because they were trying to cut down on costs. This was devastating for Cartoon Network fans who had grown up watching their favorite shows and playing games on the website. Something that provided so many people with joy was gone in the blink of an eye. Fast forward to today, and Cartoon Network is a hollow shell of what it once was. Viewership numbers have taken a nosedive, and loyal fans are left with nothing to watch. The real question everyone is asking is this the end? After so many years of dominating, the once giant seems to be losing its grip. A heartbreaking realization that most fans are just now starting to see. Is this the end of Cartoon Network, or can the executives cook up something that can revive the once loved channel? This has been your boy, Eddie Explores. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe.